Hello everyone, welcome to my channel Irshad Safety Study World. As we all know, our main objective is to pass CSP exam, Certified Safety Professional. In this video, we are going to see the question from 21 to 30, which is from Domain 5, topic Emergency Preparedness, Fire Protection and Security. So we will learn these questions to clear the concept with understanding. I hope you are enjoying our CSP exam preparation video and finding it valuable in your learning journey. As I continue to create and share CSP content, till now I have uploaded around 20 questions with answer for CSP exam preparation. I kindly request your support in subscribing my channel and sharing it with others who may benefit from it. Friends, by subscribing my channel, you will receive notification about our latest video, ensuring that you don't miss out any valuable content. Subscribing also help us to increase the level of interest and support from our CSP aspirant, which motivates me to continue creating high quality CSP video for you. I am grateful for your participation in CSP community and for your continued support. Thank you for considering subscribing my channel and sharing it with others. Together we can create a positive and enriching learning environment for all with heartfelt appreciation. Friends, exam preparation can be challenging, but with the right mindset and strategies, you can excel and achieve the result you desire. Here are some key points to keep in mind as you prepare for the exams. Stay organized. Always stay organized. Understand the exams format. Practice, practice, practice. Seek help when needed. Stay positive and believe in yourself. Stay focused on your goals. So these are the some key points for the exam preparation. I hope you will utilize this. So let's start the video with the question number 21 right away. Once again guys, if you are new to the channel, please subscribe my channel and share with your friends. Thank you so much. Question number 21. In the development of emergency response plan, which of the following is the most critical factor that need to be addressed? So these are the options. Option A, emergency equipment needed. Option B, emergency personnel. C, response to multiple emergencies. And D, how to protect people, property and environment. So if you see the first option, emergency equipment needed, the plan should be identify the equipment and resources that will be necessary to respond effectively in case of emergencies, like medical supplies, communication device and safety equipment, etc. If you see the option about emergency personnel, it is essential to identify and train the personnel who will be involved in emergency, like first aider, medical personnel and relevant staff. If you think about the response to multiple emergency, we need to take care about the different scenario like natural disaster, accident and other unexpected events. If you see the option D, so we need to identify the factor to protect people, property and environment. So what will be the answer? Please write in the comment. So friends, the answer is D, how to protect people, property and environment. Now we will see the explanation. The most important factor to consider is how to protect people, property and environment. Although emergency equipment, personnel and response to multiple emergencies must be addressed in the plan, but none of them is that most important factor in the development of emergency response plan. So friends, here we need to understand, like, if we are involved in the development of emergency response plan, so there are many factors which are important, like emergency equipment, emergency personnel, response to multiple emergencies. But the main and the most important factor is to consider, which is to protect people, property and environment. So the answer will be D. So now we will move to another question, that will be the question number 22 and second question of the video. So let's start the question. Question number 22. Based on a factory mutual engineering corporation study of more than 25,000 fires over a 10 years of period, the leading cause of industrial fire is. So the option is A. Spark, B. Smoking, C. Electrical, or D. Hot surface. So if you know the answer, please write in the comment which is the leading cause of the industrial fire: spark, smoking, electrical, or hot surface. Okay, let's see the answer. So friends, the answer is C. Electrical. As per the study, Factory Mutual Engineering Corporation indicated that about 23% of all industrial fire are electrical in nature. So the leading cause of the fire was, as per the study, electrical. So there are many regions where because of the electrical failure, short circuit, because of that the fire has been occurred. So the answer is C. Electrical. Let's see another question. Question number 23. The standards developed by the National Fire Protection Association (NFPA) for fire prevention and protection are called. So here we have to say the NFPA for fire prevention and protection. What we called? Option A, NFPA Code of Fire Standards. Option B, Uniform Building Fire Code. C, Fire Safety Standard, or D, National Fire Code. Very important question. As per the National Fire Protection Association (NFPA), for fire prevention and protection, what we called, which standard developed by NFPA for fire prevention and protection? So these are the four options. If you know the answer, just write in the comments. Okay guys, so very important question. It may ask in the CSP and ASP exams. Okay, so NFP Code of Fire Standard, Uniform Fire Code, Fire Safety Standard, or National Fire Code. So let's see the answer guys. So answer is D, National Fire Code. So we see the explanation. NFPA standards for fire protection are called National Fire Code. Life Safety Code is the element of National Fire Code. You can see at the right of the top, NFPA 101 Life Safety Code. This is the one key chapter in National Fire Code standard developed for fire protection and prevention. If you see, the chapter is designed with the goal of protecting people in case of fire in a building. It takes into account of building construction, occupancy, and protection features. This NFPA code has provision for means of egress, fire protection features, alarm, sprinkler system, emergency lighting, and smoking barrier for all types of occupancies. So very good information from this question. So the answer is National Fire Code. Okay, let's see another questions. Meanwhile, who have not subscribed, please subscribe my channel and share to the maximum people. Thank you so much. So question number 24. Auto ignition temperature is the minimum temperature at which material would burn in the absence of ignition source. So the temperature would be lower than ignition temperature. Option B, higher than ignition temperature, or option C, same as the ignition temperature, or option D, depends on the material. It could be higher or lower than ignition temperature. First we will understand the question. Question talk about the without source of ignition and in the presence of high temperature, material would burn, right? So this is that temperature we called auto ignition temperature, right? So that temperature, what will be the temperature range? Either it is lower than ignition temperature, or higher than, or same, or it depends on the material. So we will see the answer in the next slide. Try to understand the question. Don't go for the answer immediately. First understand the question. It's talk about auto ignition temperature is the minimum temperature at which material would burn without source of ignition. So answer will be B, higher than ignition temperature. Now we will see the explanation of this question. Auto ignition temperature is higher than ignition temperature. This phenomena occurs as a result of oxidation of fuel which would generate heat and raise the temperature. Higher temperature would cause higher oxidation rates and even more heat would be generated. So this process continues until material reaches its auto ignition temperature. So the process is very simple. Whenever there is a higher temperature in the atmosphere, material oxidation rates will increase, and because of that more heat would be generated in that material, and material reaches its auto ignition temperature level. Thus this is the process of auto ignition in the absence of any source of ignition. Examples like paint and oil soaked wrecks have caused many fires in this way. Flammable materials should never be exposed to temperature above their auto ignition temperature in order to avoid any fire at work site. Okay guys, let's see another question. Question number 25. In order of combustion reaction to start and proceed, which of the following are needed simultaneously? These are the options. A, fuel, heat, source of ignition and air. Option B, fuel, spark, oxygen and heat. C, fuel, chemical chain reaction, oxygen and source of ignition. And D, fuel, auto ignition temperature, air and source of ignition. So you can see the 4 option is there, and maximum every option fuel is there. Only there is a difference with somewhere it is heat, source of ignition and air, somewhere it is spark, oxygen and heat, and chemical chain reaction, oxygen, source of ignition. So in order of combustion reaction to start and proceed, which will be the right option? So if you know the tetraangle of the fire, you can answer this question. So if you know the answer, please write in the comments. Let's see the correct answer in the next slide. So friends, answer is C, combination of fuel, chemical chain reaction, oxygen and source of ignition. So this is the answer. You can see at the right of the top, fire triangle, oxygen, O2, heat and fuel. These 3 elements required for fire. But for combustion to take place, it's require chemical chain reaction, because we also need chemical chain reaction for the combustion reaction to take place. See guys, chain reactions are important in many areas of chemistry, including combustion. For example, the reaction between fuel and oxygen initiate a chain reaction that produces heat and light. The burning of a fuel where it reacts with oxygen to create heat and light. So the answer is C, fuel, chemical chain reaction, oxygen and source of ignition. So now we completed the 5 questions, and question number 25 we just finished. We'll move to another question, that is question number 26. Before that, we will see some basic information about the 4 elements. The 4 elements are oxygen for sustaining combustion, enough heat for raising the material to the ignition temperature, combustible material or we can say fuel, and a subsequent exothermic chain reaction in the material. There are 3 phases to a chemical chain reaction. First being the initiation or the initial spark, the next being the propagation, and the final state being the termination, where the system reaches a stable state. A burning candle or other fire is an example of chemical chain reaction when a flammable material is surrounded by enough oxygen and exposed to a source of heat or temperature above the flash point. A fire starts if there is a sufficient oxygen, fuel and heat. It will continue to burn until there is no longer enough of one of these three components to maintain the chemical chain reaction of the fire. So very simple, all three elements should be available in appropriate quantity so that fire will be in a combustion mode. Okay guys, thank you. Let's see another question. Okay, so next question number 26. It's a calculation formula based question. Very easy question. Whenever there is a 2 cylinder of hydrogen and 55 gallons drum of gasoline burn completely in a storage area made up of non-combustible material. 2 cylinder of hydrogen, 55 gallon of drums of gasoline, both burn completely in a storage area. Okay, assuming that density of gasoline is 4 lbs per gallon and heating value is more than or equal to 20,000 BTU. What is BTU? British thermal unit per lbs, and that there are 15 lbs of hydrogen in each cylinder with a heating value of 55,000 BTU per lbs. The amount of heat release is. So there are 4 options. If you know the formula, it's very easy question. I will tell you the easiest formula in the slide. Let's see. So answer will be C, 23.65 into 10⁶ BTU. See the explanation. Whenever question come like this, to find out the total amount of heat release from the burning of gasoline and hydrogen, first determine the total weight of the hydrogen and gasoline. So what are the values we have? We will put in the formula. 5 drums of gasoline, each containing 55 gallons. So density given 4 lbs per gallon, heating value given 20,000. So total weight of the gasoline will be 5 multiplied by 55 into 4 is equal to 1100 lbs. Similarly, we will identify the weight of the hydrogen also. 2 cylinder into 15 lbs per cylinder is equal to 30 lbs, right? So now we can calculate the total amount of heat. We can see in the formula in the next slides. It's very easy formula. First we have to identify the weight of the each gas like gasoline and hydrogen. Then we will put in the formula. Okay, let's see the final formula. Okay, once you determine the weight of the each gas, then put to identify the total heat release. The formula is very simple. Weight of the gas multiplied by the heating value plus weight of the another gas multiplied by heating value. Okay, so when you put the values in the formula, the final value you will get, total heat release is equal to 23.65 multiplied by 10⁶ BTU. Okay, so whenever question comes like this, don't afraid, don't confuse, put in the formula, you will get. Thank you so much. Okay friends, let's move to another question, number 27. A drum of carbon disulfide CH2 is on fire. The combustion product would most likely be. Means whenever a drum of CH2 get fire, so what will be the product we'll get after combustion? A, sulfur oxide, carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide. These three combination will get. Or option B, hydrogen sulfide, carbon monoxide. C, hydrogen sulfide, water, carbon monoxide and carbon dioxide. D, twice as much as hydrogen sulfide as carbon monoxide or CO2 combined. So don't get confused with the option. Just keep it very simple. Whenever there is a combustion of CH2, what will be the final product? So you can see in the option B and C, it's about hydrogen sulfide, and A, sulfur oxide, carbon monoxide dioxide, and D is hydrogen sulfide and CO2 combined. Let's see the answer. So answer will be A, sulfur oxide and carbon monoxide and dioxide. You can see the explanation below. Whenever CH2 undergoes combustion, it reacts with oxygen O2, which is available in the air, to produce carbon dioxide CO2 and sulfur dioxide CO2 as the combustion product. You can see the balanced chemical equation: CH2 plus 3O2 is equal to CO2 and T2SO2. So we get the combustion product at the end: CO2 carbon dioxide and sulfur dioxide. So the most likely combustion product of CH2 would be the carbon dioxide and sulfur dioxide. It is important to note that combustion of CH2 can release toxic fumes and should be dealt with trained professional in controlled environment. If you encounter a drum of CH2 on fire, it is crucial to contact emergency service and follow proper safety procedure. If you like the video questions, please subscribe my channel. Let's see another question. So let's see question number 28. A water reactive chemical is defined as one that would produce either flammable gas or a toxic gas whenever it contacts with water or moisture. So which of the following compounds are water reactive chemical? So first understand what is water reactive chemical. Any chemical which can produce flammable gas or toxic gas whenever it contacts with water. Okay. So option A is potassium chloride, option B potassium, option C potassium cyanide, or option D, which is only B and C. Okay. If you know the answer, please write in the comment. So it's very easy question. We need to identify which chemical is the water reactive chemical. When it contacts with water or moisture, it will produce flammable gas or a toxic gas. Very simple question and very often asked in the ASP exam. Okay, let's see the answer in the next slide with the explanation. So guys, first we need to understand about the compound listed in the option: potassium and potassium cyanides. Both are water reactive. So answer will be the D, which is B and C. Why? Because potassium is a highly reactive metal that reacts vigorously with water, producing flammable hydrogen gas and potassium hydroxide, which is caustic and corrosive substance. Where potassium cyanide is a highly toxic and water reactive compound. It reacts with water to release hydrogen cyanide gas, which is highly toxic and can be lethal even in a small amount. On the other hand, potassium chloride is a common salt that is not water reactive and doesn't produce any flammable or toxic gas. So when contact with water or moisture. So potassium chloride is a commonly used in a dietary supplement and medical treatment, not known to react with water in hazardous manners. So very informative questions. Now you understand what is water reactive chemical. Okay guys, thank you. Let's see another question. So let's move to another question, that is 29. Very important question. Which of the following is the most important consideration to prevent fire loss in a flammable liquid storage area? Which is the most important consideration? So what you will consider first when to prevent fire loss in a flammable liquid storage area? Option are: option A, compatible storage; B, use of explosion proof devices; C, availability of fire fighting equipment; or D, use of pre-action automatic sprinkler system. So friends, very practical questions. As a HSC management part, we need to do a lot of risk assessment. We need to identify the most important consideration. So what will be the correct answer? Compatible storage, use of explosion proof device, availability of firefighting equipment, or pre-action automatic sprinkler system. Let's see the answer. Friends, I hope you know the answer. The answer is A, compatible storage. So let's see the explanation. Compatible storage refer to storing flammable liquid in a manner that minimizes the risk of ignition or combustion. This may involve separating incompatible liquid, using proper ventilation, ensuring proper grounding, bonding of container to prevent static electricity. You can see the another option also, pre-action sprinkler system. Why we use is a type of fire protection that combined feature of both dry and wet pipe sprinkler system. It require a detection system such as heat or smoke detector to be triggered before water is released into the sprinkler piping. And use of explosion proof device such as electrical equipment and lighting fixture is an important area where flammable liquid are stored to reduce the risk of the ignition. And availability of firefighting equipment like fire extinguisher, fire hoses, etc. So the most important factor is compatible storage in order to avoid any fire loss. Okay guys, let's move to last question of the video, that is question number 30. In most fire situation, there is not enough oxygen available for conversion of carbon in the fuel to CO2. As a result, large amount of carbon monoxide produced. So carbon monoxide has been the primary killer in most fire. So this gas cause fatalities because which properties? A, it is the most toxic of all gases produced in a fire. B, it's more reactive with blood than oxygen. C, it reacts with oxygen in the lungs and causes asphyxiation. Or D, option B and C. Okay, so what will be the answer? So here we need to understand the properties of carbon monoxide which lead to a primary killer in most fire. Okay, so if you know the answer, please share. Otherwise, let's see in the next slide. So guys, let's find out the answer of the question number 30, which is the cause of fatalities because of CO, carbon monoxide. So the answer is B, because CO, carbon monoxide, it's more reactive with blood than oxygen. Okay. Carbon monoxide, which is produced during a fire as a result of incomplete combustion of carbon containing material, is about 210 times more reactive with blood than oxygen. Okay guys, so this is very dangerous gas, carbon monoxide. Because of this, many people die during fire. Okay, because it's more reactive with blood than oxygen. So when it start reacting with blood, the people will die easily compared to other toxic gases. We will see the explanation of these gases in another slide also. CO, it is a toxic gas that can interfere with the body's ability to transport oxygen, leading to carbon monoxide poisoning. When carbon monoxide is inhaled, it binds with hemoglobin in the blood, forming carboxyhemoglobin, which reduces the blood's ability to carry oxygen to vital organs and tissue. This lack of oxygen can cause a range of symptoms including headache, dizziness, nausea, confusion, weakness, and in severe cases loss of consciousness, organ damage, and even death. See, it's very dangerous toxic gas which interfere with the body's ability to transport oxygen. Carbon monoxide is a colorless, odorless, and tasteless gas, making difficult to detect without the proper monitoring equipment. It can be released during incomplete combustion of fuel, and which commonly occurs in fire when there is a limited oxygen supply. So guys, we see almost 10 questions today with the answer. and with explanation also. So friends, thank you so much for watching my videos, my channel Isha Safety Study World. Next video I'm going to make about question from 31 to 40, same domain 5. Please subscribe my channel, share to maximum people, and wait for the next video guys. Thank you so much. Be happy and keep practicing for the CSP exam preparation. Thank you so much. Bye. Take care.